Imagine that you are enjoying a quiet evening at home. You're alone, it's about 10 o'clock at night, it's getting dark outside, and you're sitting on your couch eating ice cream and binge watching your favorite TV show. When all of a sudden you hear a crash in the back of the house. You're startled, so you set your ice cream down, turn the TV off, and you decide to walk back to see what it possibly was. Normally, it's that tree that, has that long branch that you haven't cut down, and it probably broke through the back window. But upon arriving, you notice that the back door is slightly ajar, and the glass by the handle has been broken. Someone is in your house. You freeze with fear. Your breath quickens. You're trying to find out what to do. Do I run? Do I call the police? Do I defend myself? But with what? Firearms can be used for protecting yourself, your family, and your possessions when used properly. Ladies and gentlemen, while this situation is a bit extreme, it is time to realize that it is completely possible. The world is full of terror and struggle that at times we may be faced with, whether we're ready for it or not. This world is not all rainbows and roses, because not everything is fair, and nor will it ever be. Many people think that firearms aren't necessary, and in some instances, in all honesty, they may be right. But if there was someone coming towards you, would you want to keep them at a distance and make sure that you stay safe? Or would you want to allow them to get closer to you and cause you harm? I personally would want to keep them at a distance. Now, one way to do that is definitely, with a stick, spear, and definitely with a firearm. And one of the reasons why firearms are one of the most top choice for self-defense is because they're easy to carry. You can conceal them, and they're definitely going to stop any attacker. Now, the NRA provides us with a list of all state firearm laws, and for Utah gun laws specifically, in the state constitution provision, Article 1, Section 6, the individual right to bear and keep arms for security and protection of oneself, family, possessions, and the state shall not be infringed upon. Now, with that being said, it's also our constitutional right to bear arms, to have these firearms, to have these weapons, whether it be a bat, a knife, or a gun. It's our constitutional right to protect ourselves for the things that we have worked so hard to obtain in our lives. Now, with that being said, let's take a look at another scenario with a family who actually has firearms and was prepared for a home invasion that almost happened to them. This person was sitting in their kid's bedroom. Their husband was downstairs doing work in the kitchen, and all of a sudden they hear the doorknob in the back of the house start to rattle a couple of times, and then bumped hard twice, like someone's trying to come in. So the husband, who was a reserved cop at the time, handed his wife the shotgun and took his pistol and went outside the house to go patrol and make sure that the perimeter was indeed secure, that no one was lurking around the house. Strange thing is that the wife normally doesn't lock the doors until they're about ready to go to bed. And normally they don't do it until a couple of hours after their kids have gone to bed. So, even though they had locked their doors early, they had received a nagging feeling to be able to lock these doors, protect their house, and everything like that. They still had firearms to protect themselves. And at that point in time, the intruder didn't care whether they were home or not. The intruder knew that they were home, the lights were on, they knew people were there. People were working and doing things. This was in the evening, everybody's usually home. They didn't care. They were going to enter the house and do things not only to steal, but possibly to cause injury to those living within the house. Now, with that being said, we shouldn't be afraid to own a firearm. I understand, I really do. I completely agree with you. They are dangerous when not used properly. They shouldn't fall into the hands of criminals, but they do. And trying to ban them from those people who are law-abiding citizens who want to protect their house, their family, their possessions, the things they worked hard for. To take them away makes them vulnerable to those who want to seek and destroy. Now, the reason why it seems that guns are a big issue is because of all of the news stories, the tragedies. Everybody points the finger at the gun and not the person. However, let's look at an example, if you'll stay with me on this one, is that in Star Wars Episode 3, for all of my Star Wars fans out there, when Order 66 is given and all of the Jedis are killed, and Anakin enters the temple and kills the Jedis, old and young, nobody blamed his lightsaber. They blamed him. Now, I completely understand this example is based off of a completely fictional movie, but it does prove my point that if it wasn't a gun being used, it could be a knife. If it's not a knife, then a bat. If it's not a bat, then it could be anything else used to cause harm to someone else. The thing is that we shouldn't be blaming the gun, but the person. With that being said, one of the reasons why I'm not afraid to own a firearm is because I respect guns. I understand how they work. I understand what damage they can cause when used for bad, and also the power of protection that they provide when they're used for good. A gun is like a math problem. If you haven't done the work to understand the problem, how do you know how to solve that problem? Same with a gun. If you don't know how a gun operates, how do you know the result of how it can be used? I personally would rather be able to defend myself than not to. The reason why is because of these types of scenarios, no matter how far-fetched they are, in all honesty, they could happen. Think about that for a minute, for yourself. Your personal family members. Someone has broken into the house. Someone has threatened your family, your children, your wife, your husband, and they have no way to protect themselves, but with possibly a firearm. Would you want a firearm in your house to be able to protect yourself and the people you care about? Because I know I would. If you do decide to handle a firearm, remember these 3 rules. Always treat the gun as if it's loaded. Never put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire. Never point the gun, number 2, never point the gun at anything you aren't willing to destroy. And number 3, know what's beyond your target. Because that bullet will not just stop after it hits the attacker, it could possibly continue forward. So, with that being said, when using a firearm and after you're done using it, always make sure to properly store it with your ammunition in a separate place other than the firearm, and make sure you can lock your firearm up. Thank you so much for listening to this, and I hope you have a wonderful day.